Hello YouTube, and welcome to a quick little how-to video. Well, I shouldn't say quick, depending on your individual soldering skills and eyesight in some cases. Might take you longer for certain things compared to others, but starting off, you can see I've got a nice older model Kato AC4400, I think. So you can see that box. Sort of back here. It's actually one of the older ones that has the window in it, so it's fairly dated. All the parts and stuff are still in the bag. I've not really had a chance, especially because I'm ripping it apart, to sort of get those applied, but obviously after I'm done this video, I'll probably get those in and up and running. So as you can see, for this video we're going to be installing a Loksound 5 8-pin decoder. In this case, this one's completely blank. I obviously have a lock programmer, whatever they call it, so I can throw in basically whatever sound I want, and then obviously we'll be using the sugar cube speakers with the 3D printed echo chamber, or whatever you want to call it. So normally this is pretty much your stock Kato board. I still have the little jumpers in there for DC mode. And obviously you got your factory front and rear LEDs. Most cases with Kato, these will be an amber, very orange color, and unfortunately in my case, that's what these are. These are extremely amber and orange, and they don't really look prototypical. And I mean, if I'm going to go through sort of the hassle of getting a Loksound 5 decoder installed, I want it to look good from a lighting perspective. So what I've done is, ripped out, I shouldn't say ripped out, what I did try doing was obviously reusing where possible the existing factory light tubes. Unfortunately, because this model's sold, when I went to remove this one, it snapped. So fat chance for doing a quick single LED ditch light install. So unfortunately I had to go individual LEDs. So initially I was going to use what was left of my I think South Bend or SBS Backshops LEDs. They don't make these anymore, or they're not doing them anymore. They actually made really, really good SMD LEDs, so I was going to use my last 3 on that. Fortunately, I now need 4, right? Front light, reverse light, and both ditch lights, so that didn't work, so I had to open up my China pack here. This is just basically a bulk pack of pre-wired, and they work pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong, even though they're China made, I'd give them probably the durability equivalency of, say, the Rapido pre-wired SMDs for their ditch lights. So with a little bit of fussing and fighting, I was able to basically reuse the front part of the lenses on both the ditch lights, and I was able to get some SMDs in there, and I was able to get the leads sort of tinned already. So I wasn't going to spend time in this video showing people how to wire up the SMDs. There's a million other videos out there, and again, this is more installing the Loksound decoder versus installing SMD LEDs. So within there you can sort of see what I did. I basically just tacked it on the end, added some CA on top of that, and then put it back in. So for the most part I was able to use the front and rear light tubes, right? And so that's not too bad. And again, I basically cut the ends off these and polished them down, and sort of did the same procedure. I don't really think you'll be able to see that under there, but what I will do is, since I do have the leads tinned, I'll give you just sort of look at the ditch lights functioning. And again, even though they were installed individually, I wired them together because prototypically Canadian railroads don't really have flashing ditch lights. I know it's apparently possible, but they just don't do it. So let's see what's going on there. If you could, yeah, there's a great example of it. Right, and off. So that was part of the challenge, over and done with. Yeah, and again, because my eyesight's not quite there, I actually use this. So I clip basically the light tube, or in that case, just the little snippet there. Put the LED in there, sort of line them up together so that the LED is basically touching the top and facing the right way. I go in there with this stuff. I like it, the Faller laser glue. It's basically really diluted but really strong wood glue, or white glue in this case, and it's basically meant for wood kits or doing glazing. I actually like using it for my LEDs just because it doesn't create the permanent bond, it doesn't create a solid bond. What it does is it just basically tacks it in place with enough clear material between the LED and the lens itself that when you do apply the CA over top, you don't get any of that crazy white fogging. And so that's why I sort of don't use CA right off the bat, because if you fuck up, that's it, you're done, right? You're making another light tube or going out and buying another one. So I like this stuff because you sort of get a second chance with it. And then once that's sort of cured, then on top of that, I go ahead and put the CA, so that creates the permanent bond there, and that way, you know, you can yank on these and whatever. And you know, I also glue the wires sort of in place a little bit as well. But enough about that. Let's get on with the installation. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the 8-pin jumpers. And this probably should need pliers for it, but I'm going to try and man up and do it without. Not exactly the easiest task. And you know what? I'm going to be back in a second. I'm just going to grab a pair of needle nose. Okay, so now that I have the right tool for the right job, let's go ahead, and that'll make removing this pretty much like butter. There's one, and there's two. So now you can see you've got the full 8-pin board exposed, and then I believe that's denoting pin number 1 yet, and you can actually see the numbers 1 through 8. There we go. So I'm going to unpackage the decoder. Obviously, the big boasting factor about Loksound version 5 is it's supposed to have 1.5 million lighting outputs. I'll be the judge of that. So here's the decoder. Really nothing special compared to its previous versions, but again, you know, the proof's in the pudding. I'm sure there's either some chip upgrades or circuitry upgrades or something of that nature. So let's see, looking here, probably have a common ground point. In fact, what I'm going to do is something I usually never do, and refer to the instructions. So let's see here. So purple's your common. Violets, 1, 2, green front and all that. So I'm not going to worry about the front because all that's there, so I really just need to figure out the purple and teal. Oh, actually, there we go. I guess they call it pink and turquoise. So aux 3, aux 4, and then that. I just need to figure out, I can't remember, it's been a really long time since I've done one of these, what the common ground is. Oh, there we go, it's actually blue for common plus. And alright, give me a minute and let me figure out this wiring and I'll come back to you. Okay, so that took a little bit of figuring out. Long story short, what it ends up being is pretty much what the diagram shows. So if we look here, we'll see that that purple, and I'm sure it probably shows up purple on the camera as well, but that's actually blue. So blue goes all the way through onto the 8-pin connector, and it shows that it's pin number 7. So looking down at the locomotive, pin number 7 is basically the second one from the front there, and sure enough, there's actually a nice little silver pad there. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. We'll just go down. Yeah, so you'll see that big silver pad with the screw in it. That's actually a live contact, so with the help of the lock programmer software, just to sort of get this thing up and running, you'll notice as soon as I touch it there, I actually get some ditch light action happening. So I can actually use that then as the common ground point. For now, obviously, I got the resistor in place, but I haven't really solidified anything else. And then I also just glued the speaker cabinet, baffle, whatever you want to call it, in place. But I haven't permanently mounted the speaker, and same thing, I've not attached it to anything, including soldering the wires. So that's just some test sounds that it comes with, right? Obviously it sounds a little tinny till I get everything out there and soldered up and sealed up. So I think now that I've sort of figured out my ground point and all the wiring, the only other real thing to do is, obviously I'm not going to be using the LED bulbs in there. I'm going to be cutting them off and just really using the leads to get power to the other LEDs. And the good part is I don't have to add a resistor, because there's actually a resistor built into those on the underside of the board. So let me go ahead and get that sort of happening, and then I'll come back. Okay, with a little bit of soldering, as you can see, I've got the front headlight going and the 2 ditch lights. So again, I just wired the positive common to that sort of just exposed contact area. Didn't have to do anything with the existing 8-pin wiring harness. That takes care of the ditch lights, and as you can see, there's no more LED in front for the headlight. What I did there was I ended up cutting it off, and then I just used the 2 existing leads, pretty much like I said. And then again, because underneath that's a resistor, then I really don't need a resistor on the LEDs, which is nice. So in terms of the back, you can sort of see there if I reverse things, and as you can see, it's lit up. So I basically we're just gonna strip the ends off the red and black leads for the rear headlight and solder that on, and then I think I'm pretty much ready to try and close it up, and then obviously get it programmed in with the correct sounds, because, you know, as fun as all this is, that's really annoying. But what a difference a speaker box makes in terms of sound quality. So let me go ahead and just finish up here, and then we'll get to the fun part. Okay, and I'm back. So I was able to get all the wires soldered up, everything sort of neatly folded back in, and, you know, here's sort of a test run, right? Headlight, ditch lights, forward, reverse light, and obviously reverse. So that's obviously with no CVs programmed. no sound files loaded, things of that nature. But all in all, typical, I guess, Loksound install went in pretty quick. Again, most of my other videos you saw either use the Loksound Direct, or I went ahead and just basically used only the 8-pin. I didn't use any of the additional wiring or things of that nature. So in this case, here's a demonstration of how you can sort of mix the 8-pin connector along with some of the additional lighting outputs that they give you to achieve whatever effect you want. Obviously, you can go totally nuts, add in some red marker lights there, red marker lights in the back, potentially even some ditch lights or something in the back, but that's more than enough. Like I said, this is just an older Kato model that, after all these years, I finally want to get up and running, and finding some of the other Loksound decoders like the 4s and even some of the micros and stuff for the price, I might as well get the 5. So I'm going to go ahead and get the sound files and whatnot added to this, and also get the handrails put on, and then hopefully come back with a few running shots of it in action.